Hi, my name is Jeff Eliason. I serve as the Chief Operations Officer at Peak Capital Management, a registered investment advisor and asset manager located in Denver, Colorado. I am also a founding member and part of the leadership team of the Denver chapter of Strengthening the Advisor Community, or STAC. STAC sets out to provide thought leadership and support for registered investment advisors and the financial advisory community throughout Colorado and across the country. Welcome to a virtual presentation through the Denver chapter of STAC. It's a real pleasure to have Greg Heffington of JAM Consulting Group join us today to share decades of insight and thought leadership for financial advisors specific to reaching their potential, certainly in the midst of crisis. Greg Heffington and JAM Consulting have been working with psychologists and financial advisors for decades. As a financial advisor, we know that this is a challenging and unique environment. We also know that many advisors and their clients are struggling through this period of time. We're hopeful that Greg provides actionable, relevant content for you to use as you strive to maximize and realize your potential through this period of time. Greg, thanks so much for carving out time and relating to us, given decades of experience and research that you've done in coordination with psychologists, psychiatrists, and also financial professionals. We're all looking forward to hearing what you have to say and applying it as we charge forward. Thanks again.
For the opportunity to share some insights and hopefully provide some tactical elements to address this challenging time and help advisors sort of reach their potential. It is an interesting moment, and I think sort of the challenge lives in front of every one of us. Before I really sort of launch into this, and I will apologize on the front end, I don't have enough time to really dig as deep as I would like to on these three topics that I'm going to share with you today, but I will follow up with opportunity to get a little more granular on the three topics. But at least today we'll get it started and hopefully set you on a path where you can find some relief in the stress that's in front of us at this moment in time. There's a concept that I have grown very fond of, and I think the description is easy. It's the analogy is pretty straightforward. And it is the rider and the elephant. The bottom line is that, the rider obviously would love to think that they're controlling the elephant, but if the elephant decides it's going to go over there, it's going to go over there. I mean, an individual sitting on top of the elephant really isn't going to change the course. The representation here is really that of our mind. The logic is the rider, the emotion is the elephant. And the bottom line is, if you want the elephant to go over there, you got to make the path pretty easy. We all know that emotions make decisions. We use logic to justify those decisions. And if you keep that in mind as we kind of go down this path, what I'm really hoping to do is just make the emotional trip a little easier so that the actual rider can find their way through this emotional challenge into the logical solutions that we all want to see and implement. Three factors I'm going to talk about in this disruptive environment that we're in are really threefold. Loss of routine, the three factors: loss of routine, the idea that, there's no more get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, take the dog for a walk, get a shower, get in the car, and head to the office. That's gone at this moment in time, and it is extremely disruptive and at the same time really stressful. Second one is a need to act, and that's a basic human emotion response, the opportunity or the need that we need to get something done. And there's some very satisfying elements to accomplishing tasks and getting things done. And that need to act sort of driving some of the challenges we have, because we're not exactly sure what to do, but we know we need to do something. So we kind of dig in, and that because we don't necessarily feel like we're getting what we want to get done, this need to act is creating some stress as well. And then obviously the loss of connection. The opportunity to shake hands, to see someone visually, to hug, that loss of connection is extremely stressful on us as a species, because it is part of the human condition. It's part of who we are. So let's dig into these three factors and see if we can come up with not only what they are, but some ideas about how to overcome some of the stress and anxiety that goes with it. In the loss of routine, we talk about novelty as being one of the issues. And novelty is a wonderful thing if you're on vacation. It provides, just the excitement of every day getting up and finding something new. That novelty is part of what is really enticing and or enjoyable about a vacation, or some new venture, or some new task, or even a new software or new computer. Those are all things that bring some joy to us because of the novelty. The challenge here is that novelty doesn't stop. It is a continuation, and every day seems to be some new challenge that goes with it. So novelty can absolutely be beneficial, but in this particular case, the novelty starts to wear pretty thin because we really just can't find ourselves in a routine. And it really just, it provides, there's extra attention needed just to exist because of this novelty. The lack of predictability. I know that within everybody's life, this idea of predictability has kind of gone the way of the dodo bird at some level. We're looking for some way to bring some of that back to the table. And I think about my own situation here. My daughter and son-in-law with the two grandchildren, they huddled in place here for about 4 weeks. And while it was delightful spending time with the kids and the grandchildren, the predictability of my calendar was just went crazy. They're just just interruptions one right after another, and I got things I want to get done, and yet at the same time need to sort of take advantage of that opportunity that we have. But this lack of predictability really sort of hinders everybody, which leads to fatigue. The level of fatigue is incredible. You feel drained all the time, and I'm sure I share this sense with pretty much everybody who's listening to this. The idea that I'm just worn out, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And it's all this idea of loss of routine, the novelty, the lack of predictability, and the fatigue that sort of results in that. So the real question is, so what can I do about it? And in the process of finding a new routine, there's a few things that I think will help. One, embrace the novelty. I know it's difficult and it is very tiring, but it is the situation we're in. And so that focus on the things you can control. I'm sure you've heard that a million times, but embrace the novelty. This is something that is novel. It is something that may become the norm, as difficult as that might be to process. It could be the norm going forward, but at this moment in time, because of the novelty, embrace it. Try to find a way to make it happen. Engage your family. Engage your immediate surrounding. You got individuals around you, and it's helpful to engage them in the process. I think about, again, my kids being here with the grandchildren. We ultimately ended up every morning at breakfast sitting down and laying out the day, so that my granddaughter specifically, or my grandson, either one of them, would look for, when's grandpa going to be able to play ponies, or when are we going to go outside and play in the creek, or whatever it happened to be. If we didn't lay that out for the day, then the expectation was that at any moment in time when they got bored, they could just tap grandpa on the shoulder and off he'd go. So we had to sort of set some boundaries and set some rules. And so engage your immediate core people, family, whether it's, your spouse or kids, or, your whoever they are that's immediately around you, engage them and try to help build this idea of routine that'll relieve some of the stress over time. Another thing that is really helpful here is to take a realistic assessment of your current structure or the lack thereof. Really look at, what is it that I could be doing to put more structure in my life? Is it, get up in the morning, get a shower, get dressed for work, shave, go down the path of really preparing yourself to go to work, which then allows you to sort of provide a sense of structure in the day as you move forward. So a realistic assessment. You're looking for gaps, and you want to fill those gaps wherever you might be able to do that. So those three things are sort of part of it. And then the last piece of this, there's a question out here as to whether or not you're becoming overly self-reliant. Many times when we find ourselves in situations of high stress, we start to dig a little deeper on ourselves and sometimes hold ourselves accountable at a level that maybe we shouldn't. But being overly self-reliant means you're not looking for input, you're not getting input from others, and that can be really disastrous in terms of finding a new routine. So look for input from others. Don't think that you've got to solve this by yourself. Look for input. It will definitely help. The need to act. The idea of impulsivity is really what I want to get to here. And impulsivity is a real challenge, and it's ever present in virtually everybody that has been measured. And, I'm talking around some of this with the help of the Morrison and Associates out of Palatine, Illinois. Dr. David and Dr. David Morrison are they're organizational psychiatrists, and they have spent years studying attributes of what makes people tick and sort of behavioral science behind all that. And they've got 13 attributes of successful, lots of information. But this idea of need to act and impulsivity really is part of the human condition and part of who we are. We just feel like we need to do something, and in some cases, doing something may be very beneficial. In other cases, without thought, doing something may be disastrous. We want to solve challenges. We want to solve problems. I mean, it is who we are. We want to help. So this idea of needing to act is, again, really important to understand, and at the same time recognize that for us to be effective at doing so, we need to apply some judgment here. And the Morrisons have a really interesting model that I think is really helpful to get to here. They start with collecting data, and it's not about collecting data in and of itself. It's pertinent and relevant data and all of the data available. And that's, I know, a bit of a challenge, because in some cases, we want to get something done, so we collect enough data to where we feel like we've got enough to act on it, and off we go. And it doesn't always benefit us to just get at it. Sometimes we need to be thoughtful. The second step is to synthesize, boil it down. Once you've got the data, you got to boil it down to what's really going to be impactful in the decisions you want to make and the judgment that you need to apply. And the last thing is act. And in the implementation stage, it's really important to continue to collect data, continue to synthesize, because as you're implementing an idea or implementing a strategy or implementing a task that ultimately ends up in satisfying a need or helping someone, there's always new data being created because of the act of implementing the idea. So how does that work, and what's the biggest fault? The biggest challenge in all of this is understanding the factors. This comes directly, Agile Analytics is a product of David Morrison and Fred Harburg at Kellogg University, and this or Kellogg School of Business. But the idea here, growth factors, perceptiveness and ambiguity, task perceptiveness, that's really in the gathering of data, and it's the ability to really understand whether it makes sense. The flexible thinking, emotional, nonverbal dexterity, abstract thinking, scope of inquiry, those are things that impact the synthesizing of the data you've collected. And then the saboteurs are the ones that really hinder our ability to implement these ideas. And depending upon where you sit on these scales gives you an idea about how you're wired. And that's what this is about. It's not about personality. It's really about how your system is wired to take in information, process information, synthesize it, and then the implementation of those ideas. Impulsivity, as I started off, was one of those challenges that lives in all of us. It's typically a attribute that scores very high with virtually everybody that has been at least tested. And the challenge with impulsivity is that we really just don't always sort of move forward. And I put this puzzle piece up here because I want to share an example, a very specific example of impulsivity and how it caught me off guard back when I was a financial advisor. I had one of my best clients sit down with me at one point in time and ask me if I could meet with one of her best friends. Her name was Evelyn Brewster, and I said, of course, I'd be happy to meet with her. And she pulls out a piece of yellow legal pad and hands the piece of paper to me, and on it is virtually everything financially, in all the financial information I would need from Evelyn Brewster. It's bank accounts, brokerage accounts, bonds, her debt structure, everything, all of her assets on a single piece of paper. And then the question came, could you meet with her 2 weeks on Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon? And of course, I didn't even bother to get my calendar out. Pardon me. I just said, sure, absolutely, ready to go. I'll clear my schedule. So now I've got everything I need. I've got 2 weeks to prepare. I pull together this fabulous financial plan. Evelyn sits down with me in the first meeting. I shake her hand. Thank you very much. We sit down and I pull out the plan. I lay it in front of her and I start down the path saying, Evelyn, I appreciate the opportunity. Here's what I've done. I look up at Evelyn and I'm getting this look. This look. Someone in your family or someone in your life can give you this look where immediately upon seeing this look that whatever you're doing right now, you shouldn't be doing. Well, that's the look I got from Evelyn. And I stopped. And I said, Evelyn, I'm sorry, but I see something's gone amiss here. Something's gone awry. What happened? She said, yeah, you're right. There is something wrong. She said, you're just like every other financial advisor I've ever met with. You're only concerned about one thing, my money. I was devastated. I mean, it really was like a blow to the head with a 2x4. And I said, Evelyn, I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct. I would like to start over. Is there any possibility of doing that? And she said, I hope so. So I folded up the plan, put it in the drawer, and we started down the path having a conversation. What I learned was that impulsivity in this process was I thought I had all the information necessary to do a financial plan. And I did, from a financial standpoint, from the number standpoint. What I didn't have was the information about Evelyn. What I didn't have were all the pieces to the puzzle that allowed me to sort of understand Evelyn. Once I had that, once I had gathered that information, 2 or 3 meetings later, by the way, then it became obvious that I had the right picture, collecting all the data, all of the important data before I got to the plan. Delivering the plan at that point became easy because at that point, Evelyn was like, okay, now that you know who I am and what I'm really all about here, let's talk about that financial plan that you had put together. So we implemented down the path we went. This need to act is really, really prominent. Impulsivity is something you got to watch out for. So what are we going to do about it? Resist the pressure to act prematurely. Again, really collect the data, boil it down, and then act. In the process, it's really about thinking about your thinking. Be aware that there is this need to act, this impulsivity is going to be prominent or is going to be always present. And what you need to be able to do is slow down and really think about your thinking. And then please don't confuse activity with productivity. It's not going to help you down this path. Third one, we talked about this idea of, sort of routine, get a schedule pulled together, the impulsivity, the need to act. So the need to connect. And the challenge here is so significant. There's a need for physical contact that it is the human condition, the results of which generate oxytocin. And, it's sort of like, the love drug or the snuggle drug, as the clinicians will describe it. It's generated mostly by physical contact, and it's an endorphin that really provides this comfort, this great feeling of where you're going from here, and that oxytocin is missing if you can't touch and feel. The impact of social media is a significant part of this. And by the way, I mean, I think about this idea of, you know, social distancing. It's really misnomer. I mean, it is physical distancing that I think we need to be aware, but social distancing, you know, we really need to sort of be in a position where socially we need to be more active, more engaged than we've been in the past. We just can't be physical in the process of being social. So what is social media and the impact of that is? It can be good and it can be bad. The pluses, pardon me, are the pluses are that you know, we really can stay in touch. We can be visible with, we can get a visual on what other people are doing, you know, whether it's, you know, FaceTime or Zoom or any of these, you know, sort of impact the opportunity to sort of get face to face, understand what's going on, share ideas through social media. Those are all the pluses of what social media can really represent. The minuses are that there's a lot of misinformation. There's a huge amount of sort of finger pointing and polarization, and you got to be sort of really careful about how much of this you want to take in or how much you should take in, but it is out there. So, you know, what do you do about it? Again, it's go back to connecting, talk to others, you know, make sure that you're, you know, talking to people, whether it's audio only or audio and visual. Take advantage of any opportunity you can to get eye to eye with your clients, with your cohorts, with others in your community. It just, you know, it's that idea that we need visually to be available. Take time to be with others where possible. Here, what we're really looking for is really that idea of human touch. You know, can you touch somebody, the dog, the cat, the, you know, your spouse, your children, your immediate community. Really take the time to be with them, and don't be so task focused or so immersed in what you want to get done that you don't take the time to really connect with people physically. Check in with your clients. You don't have to have answers here. You don't have to have solutions. It's really about connecting with them, checking in with them, finding out how they're doing, finding out what are their challenges, and help them, you know, walk through that. So again, the idea that disruptions, the three factors are the loss of routine, the need to act, the loss of routine being, you know, the opportunity to build a routine to get to it, the need to act. Don't be impulsive, think about your thinking. And then the loss of connection is do what you can to stay connected, whether you're audio, you know, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a, you know, Zoom call, or whether it's, you know, just the opportunity to your immediate community connect with them and get some physical touch in there. Again, back to the idea of the rider and the elephant. It's so easy to see the value in this analogy. The elephant being the emotions, it's going to go where it's going to go. If you can make the path easy, it will follow the path. The logic being the rider, your job is to steer the elephant, but your job is also to make that path as easy as possible. Hope that sticks with you a little bit. Thanks so much for having me here. Thanks for the opportunity to share some ideas with you, and look for additional information at jamconsultinggroup.com. Jeff, again, thanks for giving me the opportunity to participate today and be part of this STAC Denver session.
Thanks, Greg. We really appreciate that. And of course, you can reach out to me directly at Peak Capital or through STAC to learn more about JAM Consulting and be in contact with Greg. A little bit more about Strengthening the Advisor Community, or STAC, the Denver chapter. We host meetings, whether it's in person under normal circumstances or virtually, on a quarterly basis. Members of STAC typically are anyone within the ecosystem that supports the registered investment advisor and the financial advisory community throughout Colorado. And there are also chapters around the country that have had tremendous success linking this ecosystem so that collectively we can serve the advisor community and strengthen the advisor community more effectively as a unified front versus all of us working independently to support the advisor community. We really welcome the feedback of our members. If you like the format that we're using here through Zoom and Coach's Corner for that matter, and you know someone that would bring an interesting topic to the table, or you yourself would provide interesting content, then please reach out to myself or other members of the leadership team to offer that content to the group. We know that there's an appetite among this ecosystem that supports the advisory community, and there's also appetite among the advisory community for this content. We're not looking for sales presentations or product endorsements, but timely topics that reinforce our mission of STAC. So please drop us a line and let us know what you're thinking. You can contact me directly at my email, Jeff, Geoff, at pcmstrategies.com. Again, Geoff at pcmstrategies.com. Greg, again, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. We look forward to the next installments of Coach's Corner and hearing more about empowering advisors to reach their potential, especially through challenging times. So for that, we'll sign off. And again, thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Jeff.